ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। ॐ चन्नो मित्रश्यं वरुणः चन्नो भवत्वर्यमा चन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः चन्नो विष्णुरुरुक्रमः। नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्भक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु भक्तारम्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। वेदमनोच्चाचार्योन्देवासि न मनुषास्ति सत्यं वद धर्मं चर स्वाध्यायान्मा प्रमदः। आचार्याय प्रियं धनमाहृत्य प्रजातन्तुम् मा व्यवक्षेत्सि सत्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम् धर्मान्न प्रमदितव्यम् कुशलान्न प्रमदितव्यम् भूत्यै न प्रमदितव्यम् स्वाध्याय प्रवचनाभ्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम् देवपितृकार्याभ्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम्। मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्यदेवो भव अतिथिदेवो भव। यान्यनवद्यानि कर्माणि तानि सेवितव्यानि नो इतराणि यान्यस्माकम् सुचरितानि तानि त्वयोपास्यानि नो इतराणि। एके चास्मच्छ्रेदागंसो ब्राह्मणाः तेषाम् त्वजासनेन प्रश्वसितव्यम् श्रद्धजादेयम् अश्रद्धजादेयम् श्रिजादेयम् धृजादेयम् भिजादेयम् संविदादेयम्। अथ यदि ते कर्म विचिकित्सा वा वृत्तविचिकित्सा वा स्यात्
वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम्। सुजलां सुफलां मलयज शीतलां सस्यश्यामलां मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम्। शुभ्रज्योत्स्ना पुलकितयामिनी पुल्लकुसुमिता द्रुमदलशोभिनी सुहासिनी सुमधुरभाषिणी सुखदां वरदां मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम्।
I invite Chairman Board of Governors to declare the 6th Convocation of the Indian Institute of Technology, Jodhpur, open.
I declare the convocation open.
Respected Dr. R. Chidambaram, Chairman, Board of Governors, Professor Geoffrey Hinton, Chief Guest of today's Convocation ceremony, members of the Board and members of the Senate, distinguished guests, dear parents and graduating students, my faculty and staff colleagues, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. IIT Jodhpur has completed 12 years of its existence. This journey has been a journey of accomplishments, challenges, learning, and opportunities. At this juncture, let me first congratulate all the graduating students and their parents. In this 6th Convocation, the Institute will be awarding degrees to a total of 232 students, including 170 BTech, 51 MSc, 33 MTech, and 31 PhD students who graduated in the year 2019-20. 57 outgoing BTech students will receive specialization or minor area certifications in areas like AI, entrepreneurship, management, etc. And this is the first batch making use of the opportunity to have add-on to their basic degree. Let me now present a short report of the progress made by IIT Jodhpur. Since the last convocation in December 2019, the Institute has taken several academic initiatives. Important among them are setting up School of Management and Entrepreneurship and starting MBA program with MBA Tech option. Starting a Center for Technology Foresight and Policy, starting a Center for Emerging Technologies for Sustainable Development. IIT Jodhpur has started a new interdisciplinary academic program offered jointly by AIIMS Jodhpur and IIT Jodhpur in Masters and PhD in Medical Technology. It's an unique entrepreneurship-oriented transdisciplinary program. We have started 4 BTech programs: AI and Data Science, Civil and Infrastructure Engineering, Chemical Engineering, and Materials Engineering. A new MSc program in Digital Humanities has also been started in this academic year. With the development of new infrastructure and improvement in the existing infrastructure, the student strength at IIT Jodhpur has increased significantly from 1602 to 2360. The total 2360 registered students gives us a ratio of 1:1 between undergraduate and postgraduate students, which is a desired ratio for all of us. The new UG curriculum is introduced in this academic year, and it provides opportunity to the students to tailor their program based upon their interest and capability while remaining anchored in their core branch. With the rapid change in the contours of engineering education due to the emergence of miniaturization, parallelism, smart materials, biomimetic systems, and AI, IIT Jodhpur has designed a curriculum to enable students to pursue these emerging areas in the broad context of their parent disciplines through specializations or minor area option. At the end of 7 semesters, a student can also opt for 5-year BTech, an MTech dual degree, or BTech MBA dual degree. To kindle the spirit of imagination and creativity, IIT Jodhpur has introduced design thinking as a core component in the curriculum from the first year itself. And students can pursue their design ideas and improve upon them as they learn more about engineering as they progress in their program. And IIT Jodhpur is committed to offer a unique student-focused educational experience which encourages self-learning, collaborative, and exploratory learning. IIT Jodhpur transitioned to asynchronous mixed online mode of instructions post-COVID-19 and successfully completed the disrupted semester. It also started the new entry students and the new year's curriculum from 1st of September for all batches except first year BTech, and the first year BTech program has started on 1st of December, completely in online mode. The number of faculty members has been consistently increasing at IIT Jodhpur. At present, right now we have 160 faculty members, and since last convocation, 48 new faculty members have joined the institute. With new faculty, with change in curriculum, with increase in the number of PhD students, IIT Jodhpur is now conducting cutting-edge fundamental as well as application research in almost all areas of science and technology. The institute is running various research programs in diverse areas. Faculty and students have published in highly reputed international journals, including Science and Nature. Cutting-edge research is being carried out in the areas of nano devices, cryptographic protocols, artificial intelligence and machine learning, augmented reality, smart healthcare technologies, medical technologies, high energy and astrophysics, quantum information processing, etc. Some of the projects have resulted into highly significant output, such as discovery of synthetic molecular motor, processes for nuclear waste treatment, novel cathode materials for high temperature lithium-ion batteries, significant contribution of decoherence to quantum cryptographic tasks, mechanistic clue on aging and neurodegenerative diseases, discovery of therapeutic leads for Alzheimer's disease, unique platform for drug screening, discovery of nanomedicine targeting breast cancer, and discovery of new vaccine delivery ligands. A CVD growth facility for 2D materials at IIT Jodhpur has been set up. Through that, two-dimensional MOS2 nanowires were fabricated, which has actually showed successfully gas sensing feature at higher room temperature, at a room temperature, and typical gas sensors work at elevated temperature profile. So what we can see is across different areas of engineering and science, there has been contributions made by the faculty of IIT Jodhpur. And despite COVID-19 pandemic, Institute has grown also in number of projects and funding. There are currently 130 ongoing research projects. During May 2020, the Institute, responding to the demands of pandemic, developed advanced photocatalytic oxidation sterilization system based on UV light and metal oxide nanoparticles catalyst to treat N95 filtering face mask, and also derivative of the same technology in terms of robotic systems as well as conveyor belt based sanitization system. These technology of UV PCO, that photocatalytic oxidation based UV light used in sanitization, this technology has been licensed to about 7 interested commercial parties, out of which we know of one company has brought the product out in the market and it's being sold in the market. In fact, you can see the conveyor belt based system which has been developed at IIT Jodhpur and which is about to be licensed to a company next week, which is on display in the auditorium itself. And there are other products which are on display. The robo which has been made for sanitization is also on display. And these are examples of product development out of the research done at IIT Jodhpur. And this is an unique achievement, and it is showing the innovation of growth of innovation and translational research output at IIT Jodhpur. So it's not just purely theoretical work, but also there is a consistent effort to take technology from lab to the field. And as a consequence, our faculty has received laurels, and laurels at international levels, not just at Indian level. Professor Richa Singh from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering was named an IEEE Fellow for her outstanding contributions in robust and secure biometrics. Professor Surojit Ghosh from Bioscience and Bioengineering Department was awarded CDRI Award 2020 for excellence in drug research. Professor Ghosh was also awarded ACRB Science and Technology Award, that ACRB Star Award in 2020. Dr. Harshit Agarwal from Electrical Engineering Department won the 2020 IEEE Electron Devices Society Early Career Award. Dr. Ritu Gupta from Department of Chemistry was recognized by the Indian National Science Academy by means of Young Scientist Award 2020 in Chemical Sciences. Dr. Kaushal Desai and his team of students, in collaboration with Dr. Prathamesh H. Kamble from AIIMS Nagpur, got Gandhi Young Technology Innovator Award in 2020. Students have also come forward and made various achievements and contributions in all the fields. I shall just like to highlight two of these which are uniquely linked to the challenge that we are facing today of pandemic. Ms. Sunidhi Dewan, PhD student at the Department of Mechanical Engineering, working with Dr. Kaushal Desai, has designed a face shield using scrap material available at home. This face shield was actually released by the collector of Jodhpur district through a press conference in April. And the design was provided to local vendors, and this face shield has been distributed to a number of medical organizations and the doctors servicing patients in and around Jodhpur. In this period, IIT Jodhpur, for the students, when they were away, organized summer challenges for the students, and this included authoring new encyclopedic content, data analytics, discovering the artist in them, effective teaching, and doing the literary work. And lots of them, there was a huge participation from the students, and many of them won cash awards. So this also shows the resilience of our student community and their ability to respond to challenge which pandemic presented to us. IIT Jodhpur has been pretty active in the collaborative activities. Jodhpur City and Knowledge Innovation Cluster has been sanctioned by the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India in July 2020. And IIT Jodhpur has been identified as the nodal agency for carrying out activities involving about 20 institutes in the city of Jodhpur, as well as the local industry. We're looking into medical technologies, textile, water pollution problem of Jodhpur, as well as many of the governance issues which can be solved by technology interventions. Incubation and Innovation Center at IIT Jodhpur was inaugurated by Honorable Minister of Education, Sri Ramesh Chand Pokhriyal, and it was done on 16th of October. And I'm very happy to report that that is now hosting about 7 startups, and 2 companies have come forward and have signed MOU with IIT Jodhpur to set up R&D lab in that Innovation and Incubation Center to do collaborative work with IIT Jodhpur. Our institute has also signed a MOU with a number of other industries. And I would like to highlight that we just got the Innovation Lab in AR, VR, funded by Samsung India, inaugurated by the Secretary Ministry of MeitY in the month of November. This is a lab set up by an industry contribution. Institute made significant efforts towards internationalization of academic programs. We have signed a number of MOUs with a number of foreign universities, such as University of Western Australia, Deakin University, La Trobe University, then Lobachevsky University, Russia, and Université de Technologie de Troyes, France, in 2020 to facilitate exchange of students and faculty members. And we are actually looking for collaborative and joint research programs with these universities. The institute values its alumni and remains proud of their accomplishments since their graduation. By setting up the IIT Jodhpur Alumni Hub, the institute has reconnected with its alumni and engaged with them purposefully on several fronts. On 25th January 2020, Institute celebrated its first Alumni Day. The Institute conferred the recognition of excellence in young alumni Reva Award to Mr. Shobhit Srivastav, class of 2012 CSE, and Mr. Siddharth Jain, class of 2004 ME, for demonstrating excellence in the entrepreneurship and social contributions categories respectively. In another moment of pride for the Institute, our alumni, Mr. Lal Chand Bisu, class of 2012, Mr. Vinod Meena, class of 2014, and Mr. Vikas Goel, class of 2014, were featured in the Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia list under the category Media, Marketing and Advertisement for co-founding Kuku FM, which has re-envisioned traditional radio. We have also believed in social scientific outreach activities. The Institute, by its own initiative, have addressed the drinking water contamination issues in rural areas in and around Jodhpur and designed its own technology for fluoride removal. IITJ installed and demonstrated the low-cost, highly effective, indigenous, decentralized solution to provide clean drinking water in rural areas of Rajasthan, particularly in schools. These interventions using UF technology has been carried out in 3 locations of 2 districts, namely Sirohi and Jhunjhunu in the first phase. And we are also expanding this activity. Unnat Bharat Abhijan is a major component where IIT Jodhpur contributes in a big way. A project on providing masks to people was conducted at Rudia village by teaching the potter at Rudia village to make clay ceramic masks and distribute among people in Rudia and Kalavas villages, which were adopted by IIT Jodhpur as part of UBA program. More than 800 masks were manufactured and distributed by Mr. Ruparam for a span of 2 months. The ceramic mask campaign got district's attention and Mr. Ruparam was awarded for his selfless distribution of masks across, and other villages were adopted by UBA in Gopalgarh block, and it was facilitated by the block administration for distribution of these masks. The technology was also transferred to potters in Salavas. So this is not just an action to face the challenge of pandemic, but also to make sure that people find new ways of livelihood using these innovations. In fact, there is this demonstration is that G filter, water filter, which is made out of clay, and this technology, which is there at the back, and this technology is also transferred to potters around these villages. So this is not just for commercial technology transfer, and we as part of social outreach, we also transfer technology to enhance livelihood of people around. We are living in an era of exponential change. Emerging technologies are leading to many of these changes and disruptions. A new education policy has set the framework of IITs also to reimagine the current models and grow into future-ready, broad-based technology institutes with innovative strategies and innovative academic programs. So vision and strategy for 5 years, 2021 to 2025, has been crafted and was presented to the board. And we shall take up this strategy in coming years to define our future course of action. In closing, let me again congratulate the graduates who will be facing now onwards the real world. And on behalf of the Institute and on my personal behalf, I wish all of them success and satisfaction in life. I think that is extremely important. The life will have ups and downs, but keep your strength, keep your courage, that will make you sail through all challenges. You are actually product of a pandemic challenge which humanity faced at this scale possibly first time. And you have faced those challenges in an admirable fashion. So no disruptions can prevent your progress in life. It's also a momentous occasion for all of us to have the privilege of having Professor Geoffrey Hinton as a chief guest for this convocation. 30 years ago, Professor Hinton's belief in neural networks was contrarian. Now, it's hard to find anyone who disagrees with him. And his work on deep learning has actually changed the contour of AI. In fact, in 2012, when Professor Hinton and his student made a disruptive advancement in an ImageNet competition, the whole world was actually astonished by its power. In fact, we as researchers actually, we knew about Professor Hinton's work for a pretty long time, but that changed the whole approach to AI, and that led us to know what AI is today. And we are really grateful to have him here today to deliver the convocation address. And more importantly, 6th of December is birthday for Professor Hinton. So on behalf of IIT Jodhpur and all of us, a very happy birthday to Professor Hinton. I hope I have conveyed the fact that IIT Jodhpur is on a path of progress. With all your good wishes, we shall continue to strive for the best. Ladies and gentlemen, thank for your time and attention. Jai Hind. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the Chairman Board of Governors, Dr. Rajagopal Chidambaram. Dr. Chidambaram is one of India's distinguished experimental physicists. Dr. Chidambaram played a leading role in the design and execution of the peaceful nuclear explosion experiment at Pokhran in 1974, and also led the DAE team which designed the nuclear devices and carried out the Pokhran tests in May 1998 in cooperation with DRDO. He has made important contributions to many aspects of our nuclear technology. He has DSc degrees from more than 25 universities in India and from abroad. He has more than 200 research publications in refereed journals, and all his research work has been done in India. Dr. Chidambaram became the director of the Bhabha Atomic Research Center in 1990. He was chairman Atomic Energy Commission from 1993 to 2000. Till recently, he was a principal scientific advisor to the government of India and the chairman of Scientific Advisory Committee in the cabinet. Presently, he is a DAE Homi Bhabha professor in BARC. He has several awards and honors. Notable among them are C.V. Raman Bath Centenary Award of Indian Science Congress Association. He is, and most importantly, a Padma Vibhushan who was awarded by the government of India. Padma Vibhushan is the second highest civilian award, and it was awarded to Professor Chidambaram for his contributions, and it was in 1999. He got the Lifetime Achievement Award of the Indian National Academy of Engineering in 2009. And we are really honored to have Professor Chidambaram as our Chairman, Board of Governors. I request Dr. Chidambaram to give the Chairman's address.
Thank you, Professor Santanu Chowdhury. Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Geoffrey Hinton, Professor Santanu Chowdhury, Director of IIT Jodhpur, distinguished members of the Board of Governors, members of the Senate, faculty, and staff of IIT Jodhpur, invitees, guests, parents, and my dear young friends who are graduating today. On behalf of the Board of Governors, it gives me immense pleasure to extend a very cordial and special welcome to our chief guest of the function, Professor Geoffrey Hinton. The IIT system has, as we all know, a very high global brand equity. Among the IITs, of course, IIT Jodhpur is a relatively young institution. Professor Santanu Chowdhury, after he took over as director, has made commendable and successful efforts to attract new faculty members in various disciplines, including highly qualified academics as visiting faculty, and also to bring in bright scientists, many of them awaiting their PhD degrees as young associates. Director Shantanu Chowdhury in his report has described the progress of the institute over the last year. I am very happy that master's and PhD programs have been initiated jointly with the proximate All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Jodhpur in the fields of related to medical technology, and also there is a Tech MBA program on management with data science. There is emphasis at design thinking and creativity, also experiential learning from the first year itself. The institute has taken the necessary steps to complete the curricula by conducting classes through the online mode during this COVID pandemic, and in fact has also taken up some development projects in this context. I am particularly happy that several interdisciplinary PhD programs have been started in artificial intelligence, also science of intelligence, smart healthcare, and so on. The institute is establishing a company, iHub Drishti Foundation, and I hope it will become a leader over the years in R&D in cyber physical systems. As you heard from the director, a new school of management and entrepreneurship has also been created here. After all, Rajasthan is famous for its entrepreneurs, and minor certificates are being given in fields like management and entrepreneurship. The Incubation and Innovation Center, inaugurated with the Honorable Shiksha Mantri, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank, on 16th October this year, is already very active, as you heard from the director. As mentioned by him, many products developed by IIT Jodhpur have already been licensed out. IIT Jodhpur has research programs in various advanced areas. Many of these research programs are naturally interdepartmental because, as I have always said, the boundaries between scientific disciplines are continuously becoming more and more fuzzy. The work of many faculty members, of course, supported by bright young students, are getting recognized through awards, both national and international. And as we heard just now, IIT alumni are also doing well in both in India and abroad. The new education policy announced by the Government of India has many forward-looking features and flexibility, and these features are built into the IIT Jodhpur curricula. In fact, as I look at it, the IIT Jodhpur curricula has many unique features. A new science, technology, and innovation policy being formulated by the government is also on the annual. Technology foresight is required to select the critical technologies needed for rapid development of the country and for it to become a knowledge economy. And of course, these have to be reassessed periodically based on the latest scientific developments. In all this, we need to develop self-reliance, that is to achieve what Prime Minister Modi ji calls Atmanirbhar Bharat. I'm sure IIT Jodhpur will play a major role in achieving this goal. Of course, Atmanirbharta does not mean that we should not go in for international collaboration. The scientific world today is too strongly connected for that. We should go in for international collaboration, but today's India needs such collaboration only on an equal partner basis, and this is already happening now. Jodhpur, as you heard from the director, has been identified as one of the 6 cities for initiating city-based innovation cluster by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor. This is to bring in cooperation among the proximate national labs and universities, and also for enhancing academia-industry interaction. IIT Jodhpur is the coordinator for this cluster. After the degrees you get today, you young people will start a new chapter in your careers, pursuing research or acquiring additional academic qualifications or in industries. Some of you may start your own enterprises, maybe within the startup center within the IIT Jodhpur campus. As you go forward with self-confidence and optimism, I wish you all the best in your future careers. Thank you and Jai Hind. May I now have the pleasure of inviting Professor Geoffrey Hinton. I'm very happy to note that his birthday is here today and he is with us during this occasion. And I send him my greetings and wish him many happy returns of the day. As you heard from the director, Professor Geoffrey Hinton has done pioneering work in various fields related to artificial intelligence like deep learning, neural networks, and adaptive perception. May I now request Professor Hinton to inaugurate the School of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science, and then to deliver the convocation address. Professor Geoffrey Hinton, please.
Thank you very much for your very generous introduction. I hereby inaugurate the School of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science at IIT Jodhpur. I wish every success to the school, which is set to play a major role in basic research and applications of AI and data science, both in India and on the global stage.
The mission of the School of AI and Data Science at IIT Jodhpur is to be at the forefront of research in artificial intelligence and data science, to play a leading role in AI and data science education, and to become a coveted destination for artificial intelligence and data science-based technology development and entrepreneurship. The school has 30 associated faculty from diverse disciplines. The school will have centers of excellence for focused, high-quality, transdisciplinary, fundamental and translational research. To begin with, it has initiated a Center of Excellence for Mathematical and Computational Economics, and some of the other centers of excellence planned include Brain Science and Applications, AI for Precision Medicine, and Guarantees for Machine Learning. The school will also have faculty groups addressing AI standards, IP issues of AI, and AI ethics. The school promotes innovation and entrepreneurship in AI and data science and is interfaced and integrated with the Technology Innovation Hub, iHub Drishti Foundation, which is a composite research, translation, and innovation ecosystem in the area of computer vision, augmented reality, and virtual reality. Under the broad umbrella of AI for Everything, the AI and DS School's unique propositions include fundamental research and scientific innovations pertaining to local and global research problems, close collaboration with industry, and unique educational programs including reskilling and continuing educational activities, along with undergraduate and graduate programs. As the first Indian recipient of NVIDIA's AI supercomputer DGX A100 that features the world's most advanced accelerator, IIT Jodhpur continues to augment its AI infrastructure and work towards developing next-generation AI solutions for national development.
I would like to start by thanking the director, Santanu Chowdhury, for inviting me to give this convocation address. I've never given a convocation address before, so I'm not quite sure what's expected of me, but what I'm going to do is talk about the interaction between reason and intuition. I'm going to start by talking about something Darwin said in his book, The Voyage of the Beagle. On that voyage, Darwin visited numerous coral islands, and he noted that there were three types of coral island. There's coral islands with a reef close to the island. There's coral islands with a barrier reef that's a long way from the island, like a mile offshore. And there's coral islands that are just atolls with a ring of barrier reef and no island in the middle. Because he was a biologist, Darwin noticed that there was a problem with this. The barrier reefs were in deep water, more than 100 feet deep, and the live coral reef that reached the surface of the ocean was built on top of a big pile of dead coral. And the question was, how did that dead coral get there? Because coral can't grow more than about 100 feet below the surface. There isn't enough light. After some thought, Darwin realized what must have happened. It started off as a coral island with just a fringe of reef around it. And then both the island and the ocean floor sank. And as they sank, the reef got further from the island, and new coral was built on top of the old coral. So just from visiting these coral islands and doing some reasoning, Darwin was able to overcome the fundamental intuition that the Earth is rigid. Darwin even postulated that the Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Australia was caused by the whole Australian continental shelf sinking. About 80 years later, someone called Alfred Wegener postulated the theory of continental drift, which was even more radical. That, for example, South America had once been attached to Africa, and they drifted apart, opening up the Atlantic Ocean. Geologists mocked this theory as wishful thinking, even though Wegener, who wasn't a geologist, he was a climatologist, had lots of evidence in favor of it. Lots of little paradoxes that could only be explained by continental drift. For example, the soil types along the coast of Europe and Africa matched up with the soil types along the coast of the Americas. Also, rare fossils that only occurred in certain parts of the coast of Africa matched up with the same rare fossils on the corresponding parts of the coast of South America. There were glacial scrapes in rocks in the tropics in Africa. That is the kind of scrapes that are made by a glacier pulling a big rock over the top of a rock formation. So areas that were now in the tropics used to be covered in ice. There are also coal deposits in the Arctic, and the coal deposits are formed from plants that only grow in hot climates. So presumably, areas that are now in the Arctic used to be much hotter. Despite this evidence, the geologists were unconvinced. In fact, they were very strongly against Wegener's theory. They treated it as heresy. They said things like, if Wegener is right, the last 70 years of geology were a complete waste of time. They also said this theory should not be allowed in the textbooks. It will just confuse students. When David Attenborough was a student in the 1940s, he asked his lecturer about the theory of continental drift, and here's what the lecturer said. I once asked my lecturers why he was not talking to us about continental drift, and I was told sneeringly that if I could prove there was a force that could move continents, then he might think about it. The idea was moonshine, I was informed. Now, what's interesting is by the 1940s, people already had the correct mechanism for continental drift. It was proposed by Holmes in the 1930s, and it was that the continents floated on a sea of hot magma. When I was a boy in the 1950s, I listened to a radio program before the theory of continental drift was accepted. And in that radio program, there was some very strong biological evidence in favor of continental drift. There's a genus of water beetles called the Elmidae that live in fast-running streams and can't fly. If you look on the north coast of Australia, this genus is differentiated into a number of species which are in different streams on the north coast of Australia. And in about 100 million years, these species are so bad at migrating that they haven't managed to cross the mountain ridge between two streams. And yet, if you look at the north coast of New Guinea, you find the same species of Elmidae in the same order, but actually in reverse order. Now, this is a weird paradox that needs some explaining. And the only explanation that makes any sense is that the north coast of New Guinea was once attached to the north coast of Australia, and it came off and turned around. The geologist's response to this argument was, how could beetles move continents? There's something fundamental here about doing science, which is, if you come across a paradox, you oughtn't to dismiss it. You don't want to jump to simplistic explanations of it, but you must bear it in mind. For a good scientist, a paradox is an irritant, and it never ceases to be irritating until the scientist can explain it. A paradox for a scientist is a bit like a piece of grit in an oyster. It irritates the oyster until the oyster has constructed a pearl to stop it being irritating. The reason I spent so long talking about the paradigm clash in geology between people who viewed the Earth as rigid and people who viewed the Earth as fluid, but at a much longer timescale, is that a very similar clash of paradigms happened in artificial intelligence. In the early days of artificial intelligence, in the 1950s, there were two quite different paradigms for how to build an intelligent system. One paradigm was inspired by logic. In the logic-inspired approach, the essence of intelligence is using symbolic rules to manipulate symbolic expressions. What they focus on is reasoning. The alternative is the biologically inspired approach, where the essence of intelligence is adapting the connection strengths of a large network of neuron-like processing elements. And what they focus on is learning and perception. These two different paradigms have completely different views about what internal representation should be like. In the logic-inspired approach, internal representations are symbolic expressions. They're like language, but a kind of cleaned-up language that's unambiguous. In the biologically inspired approach, internal representations are nothing at all like language. They're not symbolic expressions. They're big vectors of neural activity. So in the biologically inspired approach, the only place you get symbols is in the input and output. Inside, you have much richer representations that are big vectors. The two different paradigms also have completely different ways of making a computer do what you want. In the logic-inspired paradigm, you tell the computer what to do. It's intelligent design. You figure out consciously exactly how you would solve a problem, and then you tell the computer in excruciating detail how to do it. That's called programming. In the biologically inspired approach, it's quite different. You get a computer to do what you want by showing it examples of input and output and having the computer learn how to map the inputs to the outputs. For this to work, you need a general purpose learning procedure that can cope with all sorts of different tasks. Of course, you have to program something. You have to program into the computer the general purpose learning procedure. A good example of an artificial intelligence task is to take an image and to produce a string of words that describes what's in the image. If you think about what an image really is, it's a very large number of pixels, each of which has red, green, and blue values. And so you have to get from those numbers that represent the intensities of the pixels to a string of words that represents what's in the image. Figuring out a computer program to do that is very difficult. People in AI tried it for 50 years and failed. One problem is we don't know how we do it ourselves, and it seems very unlikely we do the vision by using logical reasoning. In the earliest days of AI, both the symbolic approach and the neural network approach had their adherents. In the 1950s, Alan Turing and John von Neumann were both proponents of the neural network approach, and they could hardly be accused of not understanding the symbolic approach. Unfortunately, both of them died young, Turing with some help from British intelligence. By the 1960s, mainline AI, which was the symbolic approach, was already dismissing the neural network approach as hopeless. There had been work around 1960 by Rosenblatt showing how you could get a simple learning algorithm to solve some fairly straightforward problems. But work by Minsky and Papert, published in 1969, showed that there were all sorts of problems that the simple learning algorithm couldn't deal with. And that led people in mainline AI to completely dismiss the neural network approach. They decided it was hopeless. The main issue was this: a neural network with many layers and nonlinear processing elements is an extremely powerful processing device. But the question is, could you get it to learn to solve a problem just by showing it examples of input and output? People who believed in neural nets thought that eventually they would be able to do that. People who believed in symbolic AI thought that that was a completely ridiculous hope. They dismissed it as pathetic wishful thinking, in much the same way as the geologists dismissed Wegener's theory of continental drift. If you had told a symbolic AI researcher in around 1980 that it would one day be possible to do reasonable quality translation from one language to another by using a large neural network that had no prior knowledge about linguistics and was simply trained on a big set of data of how to translate one sentence to another, they would have dismissed this idea as utterly ridiculous. The prevailing theory in linguistics in the 1980s was that language was not learned at all. Linguists thought that language was innate. That is, it evolved, but you didn't learn it during your lifetime. During your lifetime, your brain matured, and the linguistic knowledge that was innate revealed itself. From a practical standpoint, this is an absurd theory. This view of language came from Chomsky, and it was based on a bad application of a theorem. Gold's theorem showed that you could not learn a language perfectly every time from positive examples alone. And people took this to mean that you could not learn a language. As soon as you allow occasional mistakes and imperfections, the theorem no longer applies. There was something interesting happened here. A mathematical theorem was used to make people believe something that's manifestly absurd, which is that we don't learn language. I remember watching a TV program, I think it was a Nova program, quite a long time ago, where many leading linguists looked straight at the camera and said, there's a lot we don't know about language, but one thing we know for sure is that it's not learned. That's the power of ideology. The whole idea that we evolved language because it's too difficult to learn in your lifetime is just silly. Learning algorithms that use gradient descent are a much more efficient way of adapting a large number of parameters than evolutionary algorithms. That's probably why evolution produced a brain, so the brain can learn things that are too difficult for evolution to evolve. I now want to talk a bit more about the nature of intuition. The kind of intuition that makes it just completely obvious that the Earth is rigid, or completely obvious that a neural network with 1 trillion parameters that start off with random values can't possibly learn everything from data. Where do these intuitions come from? Well, I think what deep learning has shown is that when you learn about a domain, you develop vector representations for things in the domain. And these vector representations have a very rich internal structure in terms of their features. As you become an expert, the internal structure of the vector representations makes some things just obvious. You don't need to do reasoning. They're just completely obvious given these vectors. So I'll give you an example. It's an example that's hard to explain using traditional logic. Suppose I tell you that you should ignore biology for the time being, and you have to assume either that all dogs are male and all cats are female, or that all dogs are female and all cats are male. Now, I know it can't be like that, but if it had to be one way or the other, which would you choose? And at least in the culture I come from, it's obvious that dogs are male and cats are female. Now, the question is, why is that obvious? It's based on an analogy, right? It's based on the idea that dogs are large and noisy and chase cats, whereas cats are smaller and more subtle. So the internal structure of the vector representations that we use to stand for things gives us immediate access to a bunch of obvious facts. What's happening is that if you look at the vector you use for men and the vector you use for women, there's a similarity between the vector for men and the vector for dogs, and a similarity between the vector for women and the vector for cats, at least in my culture. This is something that's this is a phenomenon that only occurs if we're using vector representations. You don't have to do any reasoning at all. It's just an automatic fact that because the vector for women is like the vector for cats, anything that the vector for women causes is likely to be caused by the vector for cats, or at least more likely to be caused by that vector than the vector for dogs. One of the nicest examples. Oh no. He died. In that system, there are two neural nets that develop intuition. One can look at a board position and suggest sensible possible moves. The other can look at a board position and say how good it is for one of the players. Initially, they trained the neural net that predicted good moves by using training data taken from games by human experts. By having a net like this, which could intuitively suggest good moves, they were able to greatly cut down the search. That is, the process by which you say, if I go here and he goes there and I go here and he goes there, where do we end up? But later on, what they did was they trained the network for predicting what a good move might be from games that AlphaGo played against itself. And this is a really nice example of the interaction between intuition and reasoning. The neural network that suggests good moves, I'll call intuitive. It's just a pass-through neural network without any sequential reasoning. The process that says, if I go here and he goes there and I go here and he goes there, that's reasoning. That's considering various alternatives and seeing where you end up. Now, the nice thing was that after you've considered some alternatives, you can use your evaluation function, the neural net that says, how good is this position for me, to decide what really was a good move. So you get better information after some reasoning, that can be used to refine your intuitions. I want to finish by showing you another paradox that's motivated a lot of my thinking about neural networks for the last few years. It's a very simple puzzle that I discovered once inside a Christmas cracker, and it's amazing how difficult people find it. And I think the extreme difficulty of the puzzle tells us a lot about how we represent shapes inside our brains. So it's a two-piece jigsaw puzzle. You take a tetrahedron, you cut it into two pieces, you give someone the two pieces, and all they have to do is assemble it back into a tetrahedron. It sounds completely trivial. Here's one of the pieces. It looks like this. Here's the other piece. It's exactly the same. And when you give people these two pieces, they try putting similar faces together. So they try that. That's not a tetrahedron. They try this. That's not a tetrahedron. They'll even consider trying this. That's not a tetrahedron. Then they try that again. No, that's still not a tetrahedron. Then they try that, and that's not a tetrahedron. And then often they give up and say it's impossible. So the question is, why is that such a difficult puzzle? Now, in case you're wondering what the answer is that. There, your tetrahedron. I've cut a tetrahedron in half in such a way you get a square cross section, which you probably didn't think you could get cutting a tetrahedron in half. Now, there's a completely different way of thinking about a tetrahedron. And if you think about the tetrahedron in this different way, the puzzle is easy. You could think about a tetrahedron as two lines at right angles, and now join all the points on this edge to all the points on this edge, and that's a solid tetrahedron. When you think about it that way, it's fairly obvious that if you cut it halfway up with a horizontal plane, you'll get a square cross section. But people don't think about tetrahedra like that. They think about them like this. When you think about a tetrahedron like this, you use a frame of reference in which the main axis is the vertical. So there's an apex at the top, and there's a triangular base. Now, if you see this, you think about this shape with an axis along the shape, along here, another axis across here, and another axis this way. So the natural rectangular coordinate system for this piece doesn't line up at all with the natural coordinate system you use for a tetrahedron. And that's why the puzzle is so hard. You can't see how this piece fits into a tetrahedron because you're using a different coordinate system for this piece. I actually got some experimental data on how hard this puzzle is. I tried it on a number of professors from an institute of technology. And what I discovered was the number of minutes it takes you to get the solution is roughly proportional to how many years you've been a professor there. The longer you've been there, the harder you find the puzzle. In fact, I have one professor who looked at the pieces, decided it couldn't be done, and after 10 minutes had a proof that it was impossible. Now, you'll probably be relieved to hear that the Institute of Technology where I did this experiment was in Massachusetts, not in India. I think the difficulty of the tetrahedron puzzle can only be explained by assuming that people represent shapes relative to intrinsic coordinate frames, and that if they use a different intrinsic coordinate frame for the same shape, they have a completely different internal representation. What's interesting about that is that's not the representation that's used by convolutional neural networks. So a standard convolutional neural network cannot explain why this puzzle is so difficult. It's much more like the representations that are used in computer graphics. And I think the future of computer vision is going to be making vision more like inverse graphics. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your attention.
Let me thank Professor Hinton for this thought-provoking talk. Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering.
I present 39 candidates through online mode who met the requirements for the award of the degree of Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering. I recommend that they be admitted to the said degree. Bhamre Nikhil Daryar Singh, Sushil Kumar, Ajat Prabha, Akshay Malav, Ashutosh Kumar Jatav, Ashutosh Yadav, Chetan Prakash Meena, Chitraksh Salayat, Himanshu Dhankhar, Katta Rajshekhar, Kavish Gambhir, Kuldeep Singh Jangir, Laksh Garg, Lavish Singla, Machabatuli Vijay Siddharth, Manven Singh Kushwaha, Meet Ketan Bhai Mehta, Nagal Vankar Vinay Ramkishan, Narmala Mauri Mitra, Nikhil Srivastava, Nikunj Kumar Lavana, Nirmal Shivam Chandrakant, Parate Aniket Kishore, Paridhi Gehlot, Patel Shreya Hasmukh, Qazi Sajid Azam, Rahul Jindal, Seripalli Sai Surya, Saksham Gupta, Sanjit Talian, Sarvesh Kumar, Satya Bhaksar, Anurag Shah, Shashank Mohavia, Sohail Khan, Vishak S, Zaid Khan, Chinmay Garg, Saksham Sanjay Banga.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Bachelor of Technology in Electrical Engineering.
I present 38 candidates through online mode who met the requirements for the award of the degree of Bachelor of Technology in Electrical Engineering. I recommend that they be admitted to the said degree. Abhinav Joshi, Atish Jain, Aditraj Gautam, Akhil Goyal, Akhil Kumar Singh, Anchal Singh, Ashutosh Pandey, Ayush Mukund Gupta, Dharmesh Gupta, Hemendra Kumar Singh, Hitesh Kumar, Jitendra Jain, Jitendra Meena, Kanak Jain, Kapil, Karan Kumar, Kasar Rajat Sanjay, Kritika Chandan, Kshitij Kumar, Manu Shivram, Mukesh Kumar Das, Nomraj Meena, Patil Rishabh Hemant, Praveen S. Hinchi, Predika Sharma, Rakshit Ramakant Malapalli, Shrestha Saini, Shruti Sachan, Sushi Jain, Saurabh Kumar Meena, Srijan Agrawal, Srishti Chauhan, Sumant U, Ujjwala Ananteshwaran, Yash Kumar Chauhan, Abhay Kumar, Abhinav Rishikesh, Divij Gupta.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Bachelor of Technology in Mechanical Engineering.
I present 39 candidates through online mode who meet the requirements for the award of the degree of Bachelor of Technology in Mechanical Engineering. Abhishek Meena, Varka Divyesh Yashwant, Aditya Raj, Abhishek Bhaskar, Anuj, Badal Kumar, Bhaskar Vijay, Dipendra Singh Bhati, Gautam Jain, Gulam Chand Meena, Harshul Sharma, Hemant Kumar, Jitendra Kumar Meena, Joshi Parth Jayesh Bhai, Mukesh Sharma, Nale Rudraj Shivaji, Nitesh Rai, Parvesh, Poojan Ganchal, Pradeep Panchal, Pradhuman Gupta, Pranav Maheshwari, Prashit Ameta, Raghavendra Meena, Raj Devangan, Ravi, Sachin Vijawat, Sachin Bundela, Sakshi Jingar, Sambhu Singh, Shiv Kumar Mudgal, Srinath Nathani, Shubham Dohari, Shubham Kant Das, Sudhir Kumar Kushwaha, Suresh, Upender Sengar, Vinod Kumar Saini, Vishal Jain.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Bachelor of Technology in Biologically Inspired System Science.
I present one candidate through online mode who met the requirements for the award of the degree of Bachelor of Technology in Biologically Inspired System Science. I recommend that they be admitted to the said degree. Ankur Kamboj.
All recipients of the degrees of Bachelor of Technology, please rise at your place.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chairman of the Senate of the Indian Institute of Technology Jodhpur, I admit each of these candidates to the degree of Bachelor of Technology in their respective disciplines and charge them to prove worthy of the same throughout their life.
All recipients of the degrees of Bachelor of Technology, please take your seats.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Master of Science in Chemistry.
Who met the requirements for the award of the degree of Master of Science in Chemistry. I recommend that they be admitted to the said degree. Pallavi Singh, Hemananda Hemram, Vinod Kumar, Arvind, Asit Kumar, Avinash Garg, Amlin Kaur Chawla, Bharat Singh Patel, Kanika, Maitreyi Sarkar, Parijat Pratim Das, Piyush Singh, Pooja, Praveen Kumar, Raushan Kumar, Simran Chaudhary, and Vikram.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Master of Science in Mathematics.
I present 16 candidates through online mode who met the requirements for the award of the degree of Master of Science in Mathematics. Ajit Kumar, Aman Swami, Anil Kumar, Aparna Bansal, Dev Prakash Jha, Manish, Nitish Kumar, Pushpendra Singh, Satpal, Satyajit Dhumia, Shalini, Sushmita Yadav, Tapesh Yadav, Urvashi Verma, Vishwakarma Amit Tufani, Noel Wen.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Master of Science in Physics.
I present 18 candidates through online mode who met the requirements for the award of the degree of Master of Science in Physics. I recommend that they be admitted to the said degree. Abhishek Roy, Aman Srivastava, Anil Kumar, Arun Jhangir, Badal Bhalga, Deepak, Hemendra Singh, Inderjeet, Mahima Yadav, Naveen Chitra, Prasanta Mandal, Raja Ram, Ravikant Kumar, Sachin Kumar, Sundar Dhara, Vishal Gupta, Vishal Khandelwal, and Yunendra Singh Mehra.
All recipients of the degree of Master of Science, please rise at your place.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chairman of the Senate of the Indian Institute of Technology, Jodhpur, I admit each of these candidates to the degree of Master of Science in their respective disciplines and charge them to prove worthy of the same throughout their lives.
All recipients of the degrees of Master of Science, please take your seats.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Master of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering.
I present 4 candidates through online mode who met the requirements for the award of the degree of Master of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering. I recommend that they be admitted to the said degree. Gaurav Kumar, Preeti Goyal, Ritesh Kumar Gupta, Vipul Chauhan.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Master of Technology in Electrical Engineering.
I present 4 candidates through online mode who met the requirements for the award of degree of Master of Technology in Electrical Engineering. I recommend that they be admitted to the said degree. Anil Upadhyay, Kartikeya Mani Tripathi, Rajat Kumar Chaudhary, Sandeep Kumar Yadav.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Master of Technology in Mechanical Engineering.
I present 16 candidates through online mode who meet the requirements for the award of the degree of Master of Technology in Mechanical Engineering. I recommend that they be admitted to the same degree. Akhil Pratap Singh, Anand Jain, Ashwini Saraf, Dhanesh Kumar, Furkan, Harsh Deshwal, Jagdish Kumar, Mahavir Prasad, Nitin Sukhwal, Patel Sreyash Mahesh Kumar, Priyanshu Raj Srivastava, Sagar Vashisht, Gavalikar Sayaj Eknath, Vipul Ashok Sarab, Vivek Saxena, Gaurav Sharma.
Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Master of Technology in Metallurgical and Materials Engineering.
I present 9 candidates through online mode who met the requirements for the award of the degree of Master of Technology in Metallurgical and Materials Engineering. I recommend that they be admitted to the same degree. Chirag Sharma, Juhi Srivastava, Mahesh Panchal, Nishan Dahade, Prince Jain, Dogarwal Rural Sanjeev, Sandeep Das Gupta, Siddharth Yadav, Tanay Sahu.
All recipients of the degrees of Master of Technology, please rise at your place. By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chairman of the Senate of the Indian Institute of Technology, Jodhpur, I admit each of these candidates to the degree of Master of Technology in their respective disciplines and charge them to prove worthy of the same throughout their lives. All recipients of the degrees of Master of Technology, please take your seats. Let the candidates be presented for the award of the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. I present 31 candidates through online mode who made the requirements for the award of the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. I recommend that they be admitted to the same degree. Vikas Chandrajan, Kumar Rahul, Deepak Kumar, Amit Bhati, Rahi N.K., Chandni Kumari, Nuhu Raghav, Dilip Kumar, Shivaji Saxena, Megha Singh, Satyendra Pal Singh, Vikas Pratap Singh, Rakesh Kumar, Tushar Shankar Shinde,
Shalini Singh, Harjit Kaur,
Patare Hanuman Anurag, Pravesh Kumar, Javed Ahmed Naiku, Shraddha Chaudhary, Hitesh Jain, Rajesh Kumar, Sachin Kumar Rajendra Kumar Vyas, Vijayendra Singh Bhati, Abhinav Srivastava, Rahul Kumar, Priya Malpani, Adarsh Nigam, Bandana, Neeraj Goyal, Lochan Sharma. All the recipients of the degrees of Doctor of Philosophy, please rise at your place. By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chairman of the Senate of the Indian Institute of Technology, Jodhpur, I admit each of these candidates to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and charge them to prove worthy of the same throughout their lives. All the recipients of the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, please take your seats. Let the record of the degrees be presented to the Chairman, Board of Governors for his signature.
I am happy to sign the Register of Degrees.
All recipients of all the degrees, please rise for the oath.
I pledge that I shall be scrupulously honest with every thought, word, and deed, and in the discharge of my duties, I shall honor always the knowledge, wisdom, and values inculcated in me by this institute. I pledge to devote my knowledge and skills only towards the well-being of the citizens of the country and humanity at large. I shall uphold always the dignity and integrity of my profession, institute, and nation.
All the recipients of all the degrees, please take your seats.
Award winners will be presented with certificates and medals through their 3D virtual avatars. Please announce the prizes for the students of all the 2020 programs.
2020 President's Gold Medal for the graduating student with best academic performance among students of all degree programs of the class of 2020 goes to Chitra Sadai. Chairman Board of Governors Gold Medal for the graduating student with the best all-round performance among students of all degree programs of the class of 2020 goes to Suman Yu. Director's Gold Medal for the graduating student with all-round performance among female students of all degree programs of the class of 2020 goes to Satya Bhavasa. Director's Silver Medal for the graduating student with the best academic performance in the graduating class of 2020 of the BTech Computer Science and Engineering program goes to Chitra Sadai. Director's Silver Medal for the graduating student with the best academic performance in the graduating class of 2020 of the BTech Electrical Engineering program goes to Suman Yu. Silver Medal for the graduating student with the best academic performance in the graduating class of 2020 of the BTech Mechanical Engineering program goes to Graduands. Directors Jagadish Gold Medal for the graduating student with best academic performance among students of all degree programs of the class of 2020 goes to Harsh Deswala. Certificate of Merit for the graduating student with best academic performance in the graduate class of
2020 of MSc Chemistry program goes to Praveen Kumar. 2020 Director Silver Medal for the graduating student of Best Academic Performance in the graduating class of 2020 of the MSc Mathematics program goes to Prof and Sushmita Yadav. Director Silver Medal for the graduating student with Best Academic Performance in the graduating class of 2020 of MSc Physics program goes to Arun Jagi. CV Raman Medal for the graduating student with Best Statistics Award among students of all PhD program of the class of 2020 goes to Rahul Kumar.
I request the Chairman Board of Governors to declare the convocation closed.
I declare the convocation closed.
शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वामेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मावादिशम् ऋतमवादिशम् सत्यमवादिशम् तन्मावीत् तद्वक्तारमावीत् आवीन्माम् आवीद्वक्तारम् ॐ शान्तिः 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 शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वामेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मावादिशम् ऋतमवादिशम् सत्यमवादिशम् तन्मावीत् तद्वक्तारमावीत् आवीन्माम् आवीद्वक्तारम् ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः